Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So if you've not subscribed to my channel, I request you to subscribe. If you don't feel like subscribing, you can just even like the video, or if you like that video, you can just click on the like button and I'll appreciate. So people have been asking me about when I did a course or tutorial on how to integrate M-PESA into a Laravel application. Many people had a concern of maybe how to translate that code into a core PHP application, and I saw it. I think this is the opportunity maybe I can take to do that, to explain how you can now write the Laravel, the code that you used in Laravel in a core PHP. Maybe you just have a PHP application, it's not any framework. So how do you rewrite that code? So if you are, this is my channel, and it's called Simon's Tech School, and these are the videos that are currently there. So if I know that maybe the people will be watching this tutorial are people who some of them may not be familiar with Laravel framework, or even if they are familiar, they may not have gone through the integration that we did with Laravel. That's why I want to repeat some concepts, like where do you begin? But first, I have application, meaning that I'm not going to write this application from scratch. I just have a prototype of e-commerce application, and this prototype, you can see this can be maybe a carousel, and then you have the list of products, you have listed them here. And then if I click on one product, it's going to take me to that product. But then you see, I've not done it programmatically. What is basically happening is that it redirects me to this file called single.php, and that is the file that displays single product. And on this file, we get the product name, the price. Well, if you've done that programmatically, it will mean that if someone clicks on one of these products, you are going to get the product's ID, and then you navigate to that single product page with that ID, and you fetch that product from the database, and then you display on that page. Well, that's not what I've done, because I've just done this for the purpose of demonstration. And there's this button, the checkout button here, and if somebody clicks on this button, that's when the M-PESA processor is going to be triggered. So let's look at the code, and the code is here. So I'm going to upload this code to GitHub, so whoever is interested, you can just download the code from GitHub. And basically the code has the simple CSS that is for styling, and then the includes directory. I've just tried to refactor the code so that I don't include all the code in one file, but just made the includes, like you have the one that is for footer, one for header, and the one for navigation bar. So for example, in the single.php, I just include the header and the navigation bar, and then down here I include the footer. Okay, and that renders this single.php, and I've done same for index.php here. As you can see, I just include the header and the navigation bar, and then down here I include the footer.php, and I'll upload the code to the GitHub so you can just clone it. And then there are some files in the notice. You have composer.php and the composer, not.php, composer.json, and you have one package that has been installed, and that is the Carbon package. And I'm going to show you, or to explain to you, the importance of that package. And then we have this vendor directory, and this vendor directory, it has autoload.php file, and this it loads all the packages that we've installed in our project. Okay, so you know that all the packages that you are going to install are going to be inside the vendor directory, and then the information about those packages is going to be contained inside the composer.json file. Well, and then we have the M-PESA processor, and this M-PESA processor is the one that is going to carry out the processing. So let's get started. And the first thing, as you know, the first thing is to go to Safaricom portal. For those who are new to this, you just go to the Safaricom portal, and you'll be required to log in. Just click on the login button. If you're not registered, you'll have to create an account to sign up here. So I have an account, so I just sign up. I sign in, and then you see I have two applications. The first one is C to B test, and the another one is Node M-PESA. That is for other projects that I was doing using Node.js. Well, so when you are just new, you are not going to see this application here. And the first thing you have to do is to create application here. So just click on add new. And after that, you have application name, maybe M-PESA. Let me just do M-PESA, PHP like that. And after that, you mark all these. And click on create button. So after doing that, you find that you have a new application here, and this application, you already have the customer key, and then you have the customer secret and other details. So those are important because you are going to use them in our application. And then another thing that I have to show you in this is to go to, if you go to developer.safaricom.co.ke/test credentials, you are going to find the credentials that Safaricom gives us for testing. So as you can see, we have the Lipa na M-PESA online shortcode, and then you have the Lipa na M-PESA online passkey. And these we are going to use them in integration. So this is the sandbox. And what is sandbox? Sandbox is like a place you can test your application or how your application will work when it is online or live. So these are just credentials for testing, because you cannot just begin writing the live application before maybe testing how it is going to, having to test it first. So this is the playground or the test environment where you can test application, right? So after testing and you find out that it's working right, that is when you can now go live. Okay, so after that, that's enough talking. Now we can now look at the code. Now what do you need? You have this page, you have your application, and the application has products you have listed, and you want that when somebody clicks on that product, you display the product information. And then after that, you will not just do checkout. Of course, you are going to have the functionality to add to cart and things like those. But then before, I didn't want to add the functionality of adding it to cart, but the only thing you need is the user information and then the amount that is going to be paid. So the user information that you need is the phone number and the amount. Those are the most important. Okay, so meaning that if you are doing this on your application, you already have those details in your database and you are able to retrieve them. But let me show you the code. I have this file called M-PESA processor, and this M-PESA processor is the file that is going to process the to do the SDK push when the request comes to it. Okay, and we have to first call it, and in this file the first thing you can see is that I've just required the vendor and then autoload file, meaning that all the packages that I installed using Composer are going to be fetched here. And then you have one package. I have to use the Carbon package. So why am I using Carbon? And I'll tell you later. So what do we need to do the kind of integration that we are doing? And that type of integration is Slip and M-PESA Online, or SDK push if you like it. Well, the first thing we need is the password. Or let me just take you to where the application starts. The application starts here. So when the request comes to this file, the function that is called, as you can see, it is called SDK push function. And then that SDK push function, we are passing there the amount, but you can pass there as many parameters as you want. Those parameters that you'll get from the checkout form. And then after this, what are we doing? We need, for us to do SDK push, we need the following. The first one is the URL. That is the URL that Safaricom gives, the M-PESA URL. And the second thing is the data that we send together with that URL. And you have to stringify, we have to encode that data so that it is sent as a string. So, and then what are the details that we require? The details that we require, the first is authentic token from Safaricom. And two, we have the password and the business shortcode. So let me just explain the details that we need. These are the details. So we are sending that request to Safaricom to process that payment. Okay, so if the user is buying a product that costs, let's say, 100 Kenyan shillings, the amount is going to be 100 Kenyan shillings. And then the business shortcode here is going to be the pay bill number that you have been awarded by Safaricom. So that is the pay bill number. And then after that, we need the password to that account. Okay, the password to that to the business account. And I will show you how to generate this password. And then you have the timestamp, and then after timestamp, and then of course we need the token, and I'll show you down here where we make a request. We need the token from Safaricom. So what happens is that since we need all these, the password and the token, this is the password you have. You see, you have the function generate the password, and then the token, where is it? The token here, you can see also have a function to generate a token. So instead of just going directly to this and making request to M-PESA to process that transaction, we need the password and we need the SDK, we need the token. So the first function here, it is a function. In Laravel you say it was a method, but here it is a function. So I've written this function. And this function, we require to generate the password, we require the timestamp. And the timestamp is the current timestamp. And that is why we use this package, Carbon package, for generating the timestamp. And then we are generating it in the format of year, month, day, hour, minutes, and seconds. So this is the format that we are using to generate. And then you see the passkey. We also need the passkey. And where is the passkey? So if you remember well, when I took you to this developers portal, and I told that this test credential that Safaricom gives you, we have the passkey here. So this passkey is the one that we are using here. And then we need also the business shortcode. And where is it? You are right. So it is here, the business shortcode. So the password that we need is a base 64 encoded string of concatenation of business shortcode, passkey, and timestamp. So after having these details here, we concatenate them here, and then we base 64 encode them. We encode them using the base 64 we algorithm like this. Okay, and then after that, what do? We return the password. That means that every time we call this function, it is going to return the password. So that password is the base 64 encoded string of just the way I explained up here. And now that is it with the password, and now we are on the token. So the token, what do we need to generate the token? And we go back to our Safaricom developers portal and to the apps, and we need consumer key and consumer secret. So if I click here, you find that consumer key is this and the consumer secret is this. So this consumer key is like your username to log in to M-PESA, and then portal, and this one is like your password. So if you take these things and this consumer key and consumer secret and send a request on the postman, you are going to get the token. But now we are doing it programmatically in this function by just requiring them. This is the consumer key and the consumer secret, and then we encode them using the 64 algorithm. Then we need a base 64 string, so you have to encode them, and this is how they are encoded. You concatenate consumer key, and then you concatenate colon, and you concatenate it with secret, consumer secret. So it is like consumer key, consumer colon, consumer secret. And then after that, we have that string, and I'm calling them credentials, calling the string credential, and then you have this URL. So this URL is the one that is provided by M-PESA, where we can now send a request, and if we send that request with correct credentials, we are going to get back the token. Okay, so where do we start sending the request? We are using the curl library, and curl is we have to first initialize it here. Then after initializing, we are setting the URL. We are telling it use the URL, and this URL is this one here. And then after that, there are some parameters that we have to send in the header. We have to send in the header this string here that I told you that is a concatenation of consumer key and consumer secret. So the authorization, you have to send the headers, and the header is authorization, and the type of authorization is basic, and we are concatenating with the credential. And the content type we are setting to application stock JSON. And then you have your return a transfer true. So we are doing it, making it true so that you can return the request. So if after it returns the request, the first thing we do is here is where now we call it. Like this is where now we initialize it. We send the request, not initialize. It is now when we call that, we send that request to this URL using these credentials. And then it returns what? It returns access token. Okay. And then after that, we close the request. And what we do, we just return that token. That token will come as an object. And that object will be having a parameter called access token, and that is why we're just returning this access token. So at the end of this function, we are going to get a token. And where do we use that token? We scroll down, and you find that now in the STK push method function, that is where now we will use that token and that M-PESA password. So where do we call those functions? And we call those functions in the STK push function. All right, and I'll tell you what STK push function does. First, STK push function, it takes in the amount. That's the first thing. And then after taking in the amount, you can pass them all those things you want to. For example, the amount, you can pass that the user's phone number, because those are the things that we need. but as you can see, I just had coded the phone number here. But then after setting those details, now let's begin. What do we need to make an SDK push? And this, remember, this SDK push is the pop-up you receive on your phone when trying to buy something on a store, online store, where Lipa and M-PESA is integrated there. And what do we need? First, we need the URL. And here we are using the Safaricom's URL. So the Safaricom is the one to provide this URL. Here we are using sandbox, meaning that we are using just a test URL. The next thing, we have to send alongside data. We have to send alongside some data, and that data, it has to be encoded first. You don't just send the JSON data. So the first thing, we have this, and then we have inside this data, we have very many parameters that are needed. The first one is the business shortcode, and as I said before, the shortcode is the pay bill number that you are awarded after registering. The next one is we need the password. And you see this method now, we call the Lipa and M-PESA password method. So that is where we call now this method. And what this method is going to do is just to return the password. And then after that, we need what? We need the timestamp, and we are using the carbon package to generate the current timestamp in the format of year, month, day, hour, minute, and second. So these they're just generated by that carbon package. And then transaction type, we have this, the transaction type. The amount, this is the amount that will come in the request. So that is the amount of the product, or the amount that you want to deduct from the client's account. And then you have party A. Party A is the phone number of the user or the client who is buying the product. Party B is the organization where that amount is being paid to, and that is the pay bill number. And then we have the phone number, which is just the same as part B, the user's phone number. And then you have the callback URL, and then account reference and Lipa, this one. So the most important here, look at this callback URL. This callback URL, I'm using this. It doesn't work. But if you leave this field empty, it's not going to go through. It's going to throw an error because this field is required. And this is why you will put the script that is going to process your data, and make sure that these URLs, they have to be registered. So if your website is like HTTPS like this, my website.com, and I have a file there. You see, this file is called M-PESA processor, and then I can maybe having a file called confirmation processor.php, like that. Like if I do this, after this request has gone through successfully and it is now returning the response, it is going to send the data to this callback URL. So meaning that you have to set up this file so that when that callback goes to that file, it gets the code to process the request that comes. Otherwise, it is going to lead to an error. And then after that, after setting all these credentials, we have to encode that data, and after encoding that data, we now start the process of sending the request to that URL here. So we set the URL, we set the headers, and the headers here, you see that we use our token because this token is required. And this token, the authorization type is bearer, and then you have to concatenate with this token. And remember, this token is returned by this method here, the new token method. Where is it? The new, not method here, it is new token, access token function is the one that returns the token, and that token the one that we use in sending the request in the request headers. And then after sending that, if it goes through, we are going to get the response, and even if it doesn't go through, we are going to get the response. So what I'm doing here, I am just printing that on the screen, just printing on the browser, so that to see if the request went through or not. But then you don't need this line. Okay, you don't need this line. But then after that has been done correctly, you can just call the other method that is going to process the confirmation, meaning that the data has been sent to the confirmation URL. Okay, so let me test with you so that you can see. So I'll just go to the here, and then so I've hard coded the data here. For example, if you can see what this method requires, where am I calling this STK method, or where is this STK push initialized? It is initialized when the request comes to this file, and that request has what amount, a parameter. So you can see I started by if is set get. So if is set get this amount, I call STK push and I pass in the amount. And the STK push function, as you can see, it requires it does what? It accepts the amount parameter. So what I've done in the single.php here, I've just and this can be your now add to cart of checkout or Lipa and M-PESA after calculating everything, and now you have now the total cost. That is when now you can call that STK push function. And here now what we are doing here, the checkout, this is the checkout button, and on the checkout button, as you can see, the href is I'm calling the M-PESA.php, I'm calling this method, and I'm not just calling it, but I'm passing there the parameter of amount, and I'm setting it is equals to 2 shillings. So meaning that after I click on this checkout button, it is going to initialize the STK push method right away, and it is going to pass there the amount that is in that product costs. So let us click and see. I just click like that, and I receive STK push on my phone to pay 2 shillings because that is the amount. And as you can see here, it is successful processing, and that is the only thing you have to do. But then after that, you have to now get you have now to go and get the callback URL and get the information and save the information to the database. So in this tutorial, I'm just explaining how to do it now in core PHP. And in case you want me to do it from scratch, let me know from the comment section, and I'm going to beginning from scratch. That is just how to integrate into a PHP application. Okay, so thank you so much. Please click like button, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.